for just a minute only to realize that an hour has passed. You were only going to check a message or check the weather, but before you know it, you're scrolling to your personalized Instagram feed and your whole evening is gone. This isn't the lack of willpower, it is digital addiction by design. Behind that screen sits an army of the world's brightest engineers, armed with supercomputers and advanced behavioral algorithms, all working to a single corporate objective: keeping our eyes glued at the display at all costs. Big tech platforms are engineered to exploit our dopamine loops, keeping us scrolling long after we want to stop. They systematically map our cognitive biases and manipulate our physiological vulnerabilities, keeping us engaged. But while they gain profit, we lose our time, our autonomy, and our mental health. We pay for the world-breaking quarterly revenues with the real-world relationships, our sleep schedules, and our fundamental freedom of choice.
Digital addiction is a result of persuasive design. Companies use features like infinite scroll, autoplay, and intermittent rewards, which are the same psychological triggers used in slot machines. By removing the natural friction of online navigation, they bypass our brain's natural stop signs. When a video game rewards a player at unpredictable intervals, or an app refreshes with a pull down motion, it mimics the exact mechanics of a physical casino, creating a powerful behavioral loop that is incredibly difficult to break.
For the consumer, this leads to a loss of agency. We are no longer making free choices. We are being nudged by the algorithms that know our vulnerabilities better than we actually do. These platforms track our typing speeds, our hover times, and our emotional status, weaponizing this information against us. They know exactly when we are lonely, when we are tired, where we feel insecure, and they serve up content and targeted commercial practices designed to exploit that specific weakness. The current laws are failing us because they focus on transparency, but you can't consent away an addiction that is hardwired into the platform's architecture. Simply giving a consumer a 50-page privacy policy or a complex cookie banner does nothing to protect them from a user interface that has been psychologically optimized to manipulate their behavior from the second they log in.
Currently, big tech hides behind the GDPR and the Digital Services Act, so the DSA, claiming that these are enough. They claim that existing frameworks have already solved the problems of the internet, and that any new legislation would simply burden the market. But they're ignoring the massive regulatory gaps that leave the consumers completely exposed. But the Digital Fairness Fitness Check provided otherwise. The impractical data gathered by the European Commission shows that these horizontal laws do not explicitly target the deceptive architectures that systematically undermine consumer decision-making.
The existing Unfair Commercial Practices Directive, the UCPD, is far too vague for the digital age. It doesn't explicitly ban the dark practices or the dark patterns that lead to addiction. It was written in an era of traditional advertising, long before artificial intelligence could dynamically adapt interfaces to trick users into spending money or surrendering their data. We need the Digital Fairness Act to modernize these rules and ensure that being online does not mean being manipulated. Without a concrete, updated legal baseline, consumer enforcement authorities are left playing a perpetual game of whack a mole against these tech companies that constantly invent new predatory design tactics.
Our first proposed solution for the UCPD revision is a mandatory fairness by design standard. The paradigm shift will force companies to build their digital architecture with the consumer's psychological safety and autonomy in mind, right from the very beginning.
It means platforms must be built to respect consumer autonomy by default. Tech corporations can no longer use the excuse that users choose to interact with predatory interfaces. For example, features designed to maximize time spent, like autoplay or infinite scroll, should be switched off by default. If a streaming app wants to play the next episode automatically, or a streaming network wants to provide endless feed of content, the architecture must require an explicit and intentional choice from the user to enable it. Consumers should have to opt into the addictive features instead of struggling to find the opt out button buried in all these menus. By changing the default settings, We shift the power away from all the corporate engagement metrics and back into the hands of the European citizens.
Our second solution is the click to cancel rule. This targets the widespread corporate practice of making a consumer's exit from a service as exhausting and confusing as humanly possible.
It's currently a dark pattern. When signing up for a subscription takes one click, but cancelling it requires 5 pages of questions on a phone call. Platforms use confirming shaming, emotional manipulation, and intentionally hidden links to lock consumers into recurring financial commitments. This digital asymmetry allows businesses to extract billions of euros from users who are simply too tired or confused to navigate the cancellation maze. We advocate for legal requirement in the UCPD that says cancelling a service must be as easy and fast as signing up to it. If all platform permits a consumer to enter a contract with a single tap of their thumb, but they must legally provide a permanent, identical single tap mechanism to dissolve that contract, no more digital traps. Consumers deserve an unhindered right to leave.
Big Tech says these rules will stifle innovation or end the free internet. They claim that if we restrict their ability to maximize user engagement, the entire ad-funded economic system will collapse, forcing them to charge every user a premium fee.
But a market is not truly free if the consumer is being manipulated. True economic freedom requires a level playing field where consumers can make genuine, uncoerced choices. When profits are generated by keeping children awake at night or exploiting the loneliness of users, that isn't a sustainable economy. It is exploitation, plain and simple. Innovation should be about creating value, not about how many hours you can steal from a teenager's sleep schedule. A truly innovative digital economy is one that competes on quality, privacy, and service, not on the sophistication of its psychological traps. Digital fairness isn't against tech, but it is for the people. It is about setting civilized boundaries for a digital society.
We call the European Commission and Parliament to pass an ambitious Digital Fairness Act. The forthcoming legislative window is a historic opportunity to rewrite the rules of the internet and build a digital ecosystem that respects human dignity.
Don't let our attention be a commodity. Don't give in to the heavy lobbying efforts of multinational corporations who claim that transparency alone is a sufficient shield. Support a UCPD revision that puts human well-being over corporate engagement metrics. We need bright-line bans on addictive design patterns and absolute clarity on the right to easy cancellation.
Our time is our own. Let's take it back. Join our campaign. Share this message and let your representatives in Brussels know that you demand for a fair digital future.